Howdy, folks. I'm back here, continuing on with our Projecto. In my previous series, I think I talked about um, lyric writing, and I just want to check, make sure I'm getting sound here. Looks like I am. And I probably, let me see if this is getting sound. Now, for some reason, I have to turn this thing on every time. I guess it stops. That's it. It should be there now. Yeah. I think I talked in my previous series about, I don't know. I didn't know if my lyric writing process would be very interesting. But hey, maybe that's just, I don't know, being self-conscious or something. It is interesting, of course. I find it interesting. I mean, I don't know if anyone else would, but one thing that's interesting about it, and I suppose in a way it's similar to things I've talked about in terms of just my music making process, but I really don't edit myself much when it comes to this. And it's probably not, if you look at any kind of writing, anybody who teaches writing of just about any kind, whether it be like fiction writing or lyric writing, I think they always talk about, the editing process and how important it is. And, I just read an article about lyric writing. They were talking, I think it was was it the 20-80 rule or the 40-60 rule, something like that, where, you know, you end up trimming 80% of what you write down to 20% to really get the gold of what you've written. And I have a lot of respect for that. I really do. It's just not something that, generally speaking, works for me. I've tried it over the years, and I've written a lot of stuff. I really have. I've been writing. I mean, I suppose it depends on what you consider a lot. I'm sure there's people that have written, way, way, way more stuff than I've written. But I've been writing. I don't know, probably since almost as long or as long as I've been, playing guitar and making music. So 40 years or something, and I've filled a lot of notebooks full of just song lyrics, and I've written a couple novels, and then had one or couple few others that I got halfway into or something and then abandoned. I've done some writing, and I don't know. The reason that I've been using the the reasoning, I suppose, that I've been using lately is just that I've done this so much that I guess I just have kind of established a kind of trust in myself, I suppose, in that, and maybe it's not well founded. I don't know. I'm always open to discovering new things, and certainly don't want to think that I know it all or something like that. But the thinking that I've been using, because I sit and I wonder, why do I do this? Why, for instance, these lyrics right here that I've written for this song, I just wrote them. I wrote whatever came into my mind and I wrote it down, and I really didn't change anything. I added a "the" somewhere where I'd forgotten to put it. That's pretty much the extent of the editing I did. And it's not to say that I never change things. I do sometimes, and a lot of times it'll be for just how it fits into the rhythm of the song. Like if you have too many words in a line and you're trying to, when you sing them, you're trying to squeeze those words in and it feels unnatural, or the timing, it's like messing up the rhythm, the timing of it. Sometimes I'll change things for that reason. Or just if it's something that I figure, I really don't like that line. Maybe I don't know. It's not something that's appealing to me. I occasionally will change things for that reason, but for the most part, I just write what comes through my head, and I trust that it's going to be. I trust in it. I spent a lot of time, I suppose, full of self-doubt, and I don't know. I guess it felt like it was important for me to get past that and just start trusting in what I write. It's not to say that you know, it couldn't be better. I'm sure it could, and I'm always open to trying to find new and better ways to do things. But yeah, that's one area that I kind of I suppose I go against the grain in, and I don't know. My art is important to me. It really is, and I want it to be as good as it can be. So things like this, and yeah. And anytime I come across the idea, like in that article I just read, talking about the 80-20 rule or whatever it is, I think, geez, I've tried. I think I've tried to do that sort of thing, and I don't know. It's just hard for me for some reason. It's an area I struggle in, I guess. So in any case, I think these are the reasons probably that I didn't, or some of the reasons anyway, that I didn't want to share my lyric writing process, because maybe I'm kind of sensitive about it. I'm not sure that it's really good or something. I don't have the confidence perhaps that I could have or should have even maybe. But these are the lyrics that I came up with, and they're just kind of stream of consciousness, and I'm just repeating this chorus. And basically what I have is like this is a verse, and then this line right here is the chorus, and that chorus just repeats. You'll see it's 3 times in here, and then so everything else is a verse. That's a verse. This is a verse. And I don't know. I guess I feel like these lyrics are fairly self-explanatory. I mean, they are somewhat stream of consciousness. They're very stream of consciousness, I suppose, in that I don't know. This thing called life, it waxes and wanes like the stuff in my brains. People you meet, they look at you nice, but they're hungry inside. You call out my name because you've had enough. It gets so tough. Never before have I felt like this. It's such a bliss. So it's not linear necessarily. It's not like it's in the sense of, I don't know, paragraphs or sentence structure in the terms of like if you were writing, a story or something. You know what I mean? These thoughts may or may not be connected, is what I'm trying to say. It doesn't like, follow a kind of, to me, it does. There's a thread there, but it may be a loose thread. It's not like if you said, I walked down the street, I came to the end of the street, I turned left, I walked a little further, I turned right. In that sense of linearity, how all the thoughts are kind of connected. These thoughts may or may not, seem like they're connected. But I don't feel like they have to necessarily be that way. I look at it from more of like a kind of I don't know, what I think of as a poetry sort of thing, where they can just be ideas or just words even. Sometimes it's just the sound of words, literally, and how they have a certain, I don't know, texture or appeal or sound to them. A word, it doesn't even necessarily have to be about the meaning of the word, I don't think. It's, and then my chorus is, I'm stopping here, I don't want to go on. And again, I started with a title here, which was "Stopping Here" was the title that I started with. And I have a notebook where I just go down a page and write out a bunch of titles. Just much like I do this writing, just kind of stream of consciousness, just let it flow. And I write out a bunch of titles, and then that's in recent times, I don't know how many pages I've done of this. I think this might be my 3rd page I'm on now. I think 2nd, 3rd, or 4th, somewhere in there, of where I just started with titles and wrote the song basically around the title. I wouldn't even say necessarily that I wrote the song around the title. I just I have a title, and I make the music. To me, doesn't necessarily have to even be connected in any way, because in terms of that, I don't even know necessarily what the song's going to be about. And the lyrics are generally the last thing I write. So like when I'm writing the music, I'm not necessarily even really thinking that much about the title. I mean, it's there, but I'm not thinking, okay, this music needs to reflect this title. Because, like for instance, "Stopping Here." Well, what does that mean? You know, until I've written out lyrics, I don't really necessarily even have a context for what the title means. Sometimes maybe I do, but I would say generally speaking, I don't. So I'm not even really thinking about it that much when I'm writing the music. And that's another area. I've heard people say that, oh, the music really reflects, the title or the lyrics. So in this case, it's I suppose you could think of it as kind of backwards, because really, I'm writing the lyrics after the music. That is my general process, and nothing wrong with doing it the other way. This just happens to be the way that I do it, I guess. And I guess to an extent, it's about having the feel of the music inform the lyrics to me, which is, I suppose, the opposite of what some people might do. They might, want the music to be influenced by the lyrics, but for me, it's generally the opposite. Although, again, I do start with the title. So. And so that, anyway, that's, some explanation, I suppose, of, or a description, anyway, of my lyric writing process. And again, I've, I don't know, I'm always, my goal is to, I suppose, is to be, is to try to stay humble and, have some kind of openness to growth, because growth is, I think, is something that, very much inspires me. The idea that there's always more to learn, there's always new stuff to learn and interesting stuff to learn about, about music, about life. It's kind of a general life rule too, I suppose. But speaking, specifically in the context of music and stuff like this, I think it can be very motivating. If you have the feeling that and I've been in this place, honestly, in my life. I've been in the place where I felt like it's all been done. There's nothing new to really create or experience in terms of music, and it's not a it's not a very positive place to be. And I think that generally speaking, at least, it's not true. When you feel you're in that place, if you feel like you come to that place, it's just not true. It may seem very true at the moment, like other things in life, that are that can be, I don't know, depressing or cause you to have a lack of motivation or something. But I would say the majority of the time, I realize that that's not true. It's just a place that you can come to, I think, or at least it has been in my experience. That's just kind of a negative place. And the reality of it is that it isn't true. There's always, I think probably as long as we're alive, there's always going to be new stuff to learn and to experience within our art form, within life itself. And I don't know. That's what I believe. I'm not saying that. Again, I admit that I've had struggles with that at times. I think probably any creative person does. Probably every person does, really. I hate to make this kind of a broader thing, like branching out. I wanted to just basically talk about music here, but music is part of life. So this is anything, I suppose, and I think it's true of both things, really. But anyway, yeah, so I'm, maybe I can get to the place, where I can try out the 80-20 rule, In fact, that's what I intended to do here when I started writing this, because basically what I did was I didn't even have this chorus line here, and I was just writing. I just wrote pretty much, I believe, all the verses in a single chunk. They were all just kind of together. And then I went back and started saying, okay, how would these fit within the verses? And that's when I started separating them into, putting the chorus basically in between the separate chunks, if you will, of verse line. I saw what would fit, into the. I sang along these lines and said, okay, that will fit in a verse. That will fit in a verse. Got a basic structure there. And then I just basically slapped this line in between because there's a chorus, after every verse. And yeah, maybe at some point. So I had intended to write more. I thought I'll just write out, you know, several pages or something, and then I'll whittle it down. I'll go back and I'll say, okay, do I like that line? I don't know. Does that fit? Maybe this one's better. But I didn't do that. I guess you could say I kind of wimped out in a sense. And I don't know. That's something about my psychology, if you will, or whatever, that I don't know. It's like something that I struggle with. Is this a good or bad thing? Is it good to have, is it even confidence? Is it confidence that just what I'm writing is good enough and I don't have to go through some, lengthy process of editing to refine it into something really, really great? I don't know. I really do struggle. I still struggle with that concept, and I guess I had hoped to do more of that here, and I guess I still could. I could go back and try and write out like maybe just a couple more pages of this stuff, and then I don't know. I guess the approach I would take would be to, okay, what are the best lines here? Do I like this one better than that one? I have a hard time with that kind of stuff, though. I really do. I don't know why. It's just like, I don't know. I don't know if I know the answer to that. It's like, I guess it seems so subjective or something to me, a lot of the time. Like, well, that could be a better line, but I don't know. Is it really better than this one? In any case, it's an area, hopefully I can grow in more, and I can improve in. I think that I have probably written some stuff, at least that I think is pretty good, or that I like over the years. There's, hopefully always room for improvement. So in any case, I think I'm going to go with this, I guess, for now. I know I'm not very far into this, and let's see here. I've set up my track for vocal recording here, for the most part. I think I've discussed this before, how I do this. All I do is I go to the EQ of the track that I'm going to put the vocal on, and I do a high pass, which I think I've explained before. It's just cutting off the low frequency, starting at 100 hertz. On this slope, you can adjust the slope, which is the curve of this line here. See, by moving that. It's at, what is that, 12? Just the number 12. I don't even know what that references exactly, but the slope is at the number 12. And that's for eliminating rumble and low end, which generally, I don't know, with the track counts as small as they generally are in my songs, I don't even know that that's a huge problem. Although I have run into problems with the low end getting muddy and getting like too much information basically in the low end. But I think that's more just from tracks that have a lot of low end in it. Like, for instance, just the bass guitar and the bass drum, just those two tracks alone can be overloading, in my opinion, in my experience, overloading the low end. You don't need the idea of doing these high pass filters on vocal tracks and things, and I have them on my guitar tracks too, as you can see here. As I switch through those, I have them on there too. But the idea of it generally, I think, is that, like, if you have a lot of tracks, like, generally I don't use that many, comparatively speaking. Let's say you had 50 tracks, 50 tracks. And maybe you'd recorded them all in a room that had an air conditioner running in the background or something, right? And that air conditioner was introducing some low end into your tracks. Now, you might not notice it on one track. It might, if it was just on one track, like I'll generally have, I don't know, between 2 and 5 vocal tracks, and really, honestly, I probably more around 2 or 3 is what I usually use. But if you had, I don't know, 20 tracks that were recorded in that room with the air conditioner in the background, say they were, vocal tracks, maybe, I don't know, anything else. That could be backing vocal tracks, anything that was recorded live in that room, tambourine, shakers, anything. And they all have that air conditioner sound, that low rumbling sound, let's say, in the background. Once you have, 20 or 30 tracks or something of that frequency can start to build up within the sound. And I think in that case, that's when that becomes a problem. Again, I've found it to be an issue even just between the bass drum and the bass. Sometimes I have to decide, okay, well, I think I mentioned this before, but like I'll go into what I generally do if I'm feeling that is I will do a cut on the bass track, something maybe even as subtle as that. I'll open this up, but that's starting at 63 and making that cut, just so it's cutting off that very low. So, I'll go more aggressively a little bit, maybe into something like that. But sometimes I just like put that line right in that corner, just so it's cutting out that very low end, and I find that it will unmuddy, if you will, the low end sometimes. And I generally do it on the bass guitar because a little bit hard to explain, but I guess I don't know. It's one or the other, I find that if you're having that problem, it's the bass drum or the bass guitar. And I find that the bass guitar often, I guess I just I feel more comfortable cutting it off the bass guitar, because what almost happens is, in a way, is if the bass drum is adding, this is what it seems like to me anyway, if the bass drum is adding a lot of low information and the bass guitar, is as well, when you make a cut at the very low end of the bass guitar, you almost don't even notice it. It almost seems like it's still there, even though it isn't, because the bass drum is still supplying that low-end information, and it's almost like it tricks your ear into thinking that it's still there with the bass too, even though it really isn't. If you solo the track, maybe even the bass will sound a little bit, mid-rangey and kind of almost wimpy in a way, right? But then once you bring that bass drum back in, it's almost like, oh, there it is, because you're still getting that low end information. It's just not coming from the bass. I don't know. That's what I've noticed, is something along those lines. And there are times when I don't have to do a cut, where it doesn't seem like it's, for whatever reason, it doesn't seem like it's particularly mudding out on me. I don't know why it would be different. I mean, I do have a couple different basses I use, but for the most part, I don't know. For the most part, there's two basses that I use, and more often than not, lately I've been using just the one, which is the Jaguar, the Fender Jaguar bass, and I don't know. That's my impressions on that. But let's see, what else can I mention here? I guess I'm gonna go and I'm gonna try and in this case I'm gonna start with the chorus, just because it's basically two lines, and I had an idea, which hopefully I haven't lost since I started talking here, of what I was going to do. Let me listen to this. That's my chorus. And I have a basic idea of what I want to do there, and melodically, like with the line. And what I'm going to do right now is actually I'm going to print these out. Oops. I'm going to print out my lyrics so I can take them over to my microphone. I don't really need them just for this one line, but I will for the rest of the song. So. Hopefully my printer doesn't. Sometimes my printer takes forever. It goes through some kind of process, like a cleaning process or something every time. Not every time, but frequently enough that it's a little annoying. I just want to print one page. It's like you got to wait 10 minutes. But in any case, yeah, I'll often start with the chorus. Maybe it's just kind of an inspiration thing as I'm going through the lyrics and singing along with the music. The chorus is often, I think, considered, if not almost always considered, kind of like the climax of the song. And sometimes it's fun just to start there, because that's like, I don't know, the part that has the most emotion in it or something maybe. And sometimes I enjoy starting there. And once I get that done, then I feel like I have kind of like, an anchor point or something, if you will, in the song, and I can go back and add the verses after that. And I don't know, that's what I was thinking here. I hit upon a melody that I kind of liked with the chorus, so I thought, oh, okay, I'll go ahead and start with that. And yes, my printer is taking forever here to print this out, but I think I'll listen, while that's going on, I think I'll listen to this and think about this melody a little bit here. Maybe I'll even loop this. I'm stopping here. I don't want to go on. I'm stopping here. I don't want to go on. I'm stopping here. I don't want to go on. I'm stopping here. I don't want to go on. Something like that is what I'm thinking of. My darn printer. Honestly, I don't even need the printer here. Maybe I'll just go ahead. Turn on that. That's for monitoring purposes. That little button I hit there. It's called the input echo. Gives you a little, in practical terms, is like it gives you a little more signal in your headphones. And then that's to arm the track for recording. Oh, here we go. The printer's waking up here. I will turn this loop off. Although, let's see. Okay, so I have my lyrics printed out there. Another thing I do here is I come into this edit. I may have mentioned this before. I don't know. Edit preferences. And what is this? This is metronome. When I'm recording the music, I like to keep the counting at 1. In other words, the counting before recording starts will just be 1 bar. It'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, depending on the tempo. It'll just be 1 count of 4. Because when I'm doing that music, I'm sitting right here at the desk with, guitar, bass, or keyboard in my hands. And I can start instantly, basically. When I'm doing the vocal, I change it to 2 bars because I'm literally sitting here at the desk, have to start the recording, get up, go over to the microphone, which is only 5-6 feet away from me. But just, that process of getting up and getting to the microphone and maybe taking a breath or something. Especially if it's a faster song, sometimes a 1 bar count off can be too quick. I get there and I have to immediately start singing. It's a little less pressure if I've got 2 bars at least to get up there and, okay, I can get up, get to the microphone, make sure my positioning is pretty good at the microphone, look at the first line I'm going to sing. That's just a little detail there, I guess. I'll even go ahead and type in lead vocal here. Although this is technically the chorus vocal. I might end up bouncing it to another, or just dragging it to another track. But so I'm going to have a 2 bar count in here. And I'm thinking about almost trying a different approach here on this. Like, I don't know, I could go for a, what's that called? Do they even call it comp recording? I guess it's set for comping, but I have to turn on the loop to get it to do that. And what that does is if I click on this button here, oh, that's the wrong track. This button here, you get what's called take lanes, which if you turn the loop on like that, when it reaches the end, it'll go back to the beginning and start a new what's called take lane, so that you could just, literally you could just keep going and put as many takes as you want, and then at the end you could go back and listen to them and even use like parts of individual takes. Like you could say, oh, I like this part of this take and this part of this take. On something this short, sure, you could still do it. It is what? Is that 8 bars? No, it's 4 bars. It's 4 bars, but still, I think I'm repeating the chorus line twice, or the chorus lines twice. So, I mean, within there, it depends on how detailed, I suppose, you want to be with it. But, you could do you could break it down into individual words or something, I suppose. But I don't know if I think I showed take lanes before, but maybe I'll do that just to be different, just to have a different approach here. But I'm going to have to take this headset off, and I will be returning after I'm done with the recording here. And in other words, I'm going to be singing into the vocal mic, so I won't have the mic that's connected to the headphones here. I won't be talking to the recording here, but I have my standard vocal set up here on my my inboard. I'm doing a little bit of inboard processing, a little bit of compression, and a little bit of EQ. And the EQ setting is just a setting I've found that it's some cuts. There's no boost, it's just cuts. In fact, I guess I've got 3. I've got 3 different cuts I'm doing here at 5 kilohertz, 3 kilohertz, and 397. Trying to see if there's anything else here. Looks like these all have. I'm wondering if this is somehow got altered or something, because I don't remember this being the case. Oh, that's Q. That's not the gain. I see. The gain is only on these 2. It's got a 3 dB cut at 5 kilohertz and a 1.5 dB cut at 3 kilohertz. So that's. I have a problem sometimes with high frequencies, or higher frequencies anyway. I don't like the harshness or abrasiveness, and I don't know if it's my voice, my room, my mic, what it is, but I've come to find that those areas around 5 kilohertz and 3 kilohertz, I guess, are areas that I've detected that harshness often exists. So I made little cuts on that EQ going in. Anyway, I'm going to do this, and I will be back. Stopping here, I don't want to go on. I'm stopping here, I don't want to go on. I'm stopping here, I don't want to go on. I'm stopping here, I don't want to go on. I'm stopping here, I don't want to go on. I'm stopping here, I don't want to go on. Okay, you can probably see just how quick that actually was, but what's happened here is I've got one. You can see these are the 3 takes that I did, these 3 separate lanes, this one, and this one. And then this was, when I stopped, it kept going into a 4th, which has nothing on it. You can see there's just a line there. There's no transient. There's no waveform. There's just a line. So I'm just going to delete this one. Now as I highlight across these, that's when you get, that's how you get that to play back. In other words, if I highlighted this one, which is the second take, that one would be playing back. And if I highlighted this one, which is the first take, now that one would be playing back. Now, as I was talking about before, you can also do, like there's with the first one highlighted, but maybe I like the first part of the second one, so I could highlight that part of the second one. Now, it would play the first part of the second take back, and the second part of the first take back. And you could, again, I could add just this part of the third take. If you can see what's happening there now, it's playing this part of the second take, this part of the first take, and that part of the third take. But I'm going to listen to them just individually here to start out with. I'm going to turn off recording and this input monitoring thing and just listen.
I'm stopping here. I don't want to go on. I'm stopping here. I don't want to go on.
All right, there's the first one. Let's hear the second one.
I'm stopping here. I don't want to go on. I'm stopping here. I don't want to go on.
As I was doing them, I actually thought that one was the best. Here's the third one.
I'm stopping here. I don't want to go on. I'm stopping here. I don't want to go on.
Now what I was thinking here is, at least as a starting point, I probably want to double this. So what I'm going to do is, I have an empty track down here that's from my template. I'm going to bring this up right below this one. I'm going to put the vocal color on it, which is that light blue color. And what I'm hearing is, I think I like the first two takes the best. So what I might do is use this, the second one, for this one. And let me see. I'm not sure. I don't do this too often in this particular fashion, but let me see if I can do this. Yeah, I just drug this other one. Drug? I'm not sure what the right word is there, but I just dragged, let's say dragged. I just dragged this other one down onto the other track that I just brought up. So now it will be on that track. However, as see how it's grayed out here? That means it's muted. So I right click on it, and I believe it's, there we go. Now the other thing I want to do is, I want to make sure, I'm basically just, you know, that third one didn't do much for me. I'm leaving that one out. And this is a little abbreviated. I mean, I might spend a little more time on it if I wasn't making a video here, but I don't want to be too, you know, take up too much time doing this process. I might spend a little more time listening to the individual takes and being a little more critical of it. But for the sake of what we're doing here, I'm just going to do it like this. Now, let me see. I have a couple options here, and I'm wondering which one I want to use. All I have really right now is I have the low pass on here. I don't have anything else on there, but I think I'm going to do this. I'm going to click on there and say clone track and just say okay. So now it just literally made a copy of that track. And the reason I did that is because I don't want that. This is, being that I titled this lead vocal, I don't want this part on the lead vocal. I want it to be on the chorus vocal. So now I'm just going to delete that. And actually I'm going to delete this too. I don't know why that's showing up there, but that was another take. It was like under that take. So now I have, let's see. Yeah, I just need to put the high pass on here on this other track. Right around 100. There we go. And so now we've got these two. So now we've got those two different takes of the same thing. Let's hear what they sound like together here.
I'm stopping here. I don't want to go on. I'm stopping here. I don't want to go on.
They sound pretty good. One thing I've noticed though is, like, even with that EQ on the front end that I was talking about, and making those cuts and the high frequency, sometimes the S's still pop, and I think I can hear that they're popping. Although again, I'm using these headphones that aren't the best monitoring, but I often do this anyway, and I'm going to do it here at 5K. Even though I did it on the front end, right around 3 to 4, I'll make a cut like that with a pretty small Q. which is the Q is what adjusts the width right there of how much area you're affecting, how much frequency area you're affecting. I keep it pretty thin, so it's just generally affecting the area right around that 5K. I'll put that on both of these. Let's see. And I don't even care if it's exactly the same, you know. This can be 3.7 on this one. I don't care that they're identical. I just want, you know, something general in there. And then I'm probably also, I almost always use this channel strip plugin, which is Vocal Strip. This thing right here, if nothing else, for the de-esser. And I turn this up to right about there, right about 1 o'clock area, 1:30 maybe. And that's a de-esser that's going to help with those S sounds. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. And then I'm just going to copy that plugin down to the other track by holding Control and left click, holding left click on it and dragging it down. So now it's got the same setting with the de-esser now on both of those tracks. Now that may or may not be enough. Sometimes what I find is I have to manually go in and adjust those S's with the clip gain. And I'll show you how to do that too. I don't know if I did that before, but let's listen.
I'm stopping here. I don't want to go on. I'm stopping here.
Okay, so it's the S on stopping that's bothering me. I'm going to move this up to here. I'm going to stretch this out further. And one thing you'll notice about hard S sounds is that their part of the waveform is always denser than other things. And you can see that right here. I'll even make this bigger. I can, without even listening to it, I can tell this blob, if you will here, this area of waveform is the S sound. See how much denser it is? See how, like, this one has these thin little lines at the top? And all these have these thin kind of lines, and this one just looks almost solid. I guarantee you that's the S. Watch, listen.
I'm stopping.
Oh, you can't, because of the latency, it's going to be hard to tell. But watch, if I start it right at the beginning of that, I'll bet that's the S on stopping.
Stopping here.
Yep. Did you hear that?
Stopping here.
That's it. That's how you can identify these things visually, as well as because they have a visual aspect. And you'll see the same thing here. This is the other track. See how much denser that is than like this one with the little thinner lines at the top and bottom. It's just almost a solid color. Anyway, here's how you adjust that. And this software, anyway, you come up here and come down to clip automation, gain. Now it's put this red line in here, see? So now I know that this whole blob here is my S. I'm calling it a blob. That's what Melodyne calls notes when you see him in Melodyne. But this whole section right here, whatever this you want to call this, is my S. And so I just highlighted that by holding left click and dragging across it. And now you see how the cursor changes? Watch, it goes from an arrow there to this thing with the two arrows, the line in the middle and the two arrows. If I left click and hold that, now you see it made two little dots at the edges. Now I can just pull this down and it's showing me there how many dBs I'm reducing it. I'm going to go for about, I'm going to go 8 on this. So I just made an 8 dB cut. That's just the S sound. It could be, I imagine it's, yeah, I imagine that's just the S sound. This one's probably topping. Let me see.
Stopping here. Stopping here.
Yeah, actually, this is the G sound. This, from here to here is the word stopping. That whole area, let me see, I'll highlight it all. Basically, that whole area is the word stopping. This is the S. This is like topping, and this is the G sound, I think. So I'm just affecting the S sound of the word stopping there. Is the point I'm trying to make here, I think. Let me go back here. So I did an 8 dB cut to it there. Now I'm going to put it back in clip mode. And you'll see those little red lines are still there. You can see them. They're just not as accentuated as they were in that other view. And then I'm going to come down here and do the same thing here. Now it looks to me like it's actually starting a little ahead of where this one did. So I'm going to start there and do a same thing, make an 8 dB cut, or 8.1. So now I've cut the S in both of those down by 8 dB. Let's hear what that sounds like.
I'm stopping here.
See how it's not as pronounced? I don't know if you'll be able to tell. It is somewhat subtle, but depending on what you're listening back to, listening to it on, basically, it can be harsh. Those S's can really they create what's called sibilance, and it happens with S's, C's, of course. Some C sounds, and there's other things too, like popping sounds, like letter P, of course. I've heard the letter K can do that sometimes, although I don't notice it very much with K, but P can make kind of a popping sound, they call it a plosive, I think. And that can be, I guess, unpleasant. I notice it almost exclusively with S's. I don't like the harshness that the S's can bring, so I'll often do this. And let's hear it one more time.
I'm stopping here.
Yeah, I'm going to solo these for a moment.
I'm stopping here. I'm stopping here. I'm stopping here.
That's pretty good. I'm honestly noticing maybe a little bit on that T right after it.
I'm stopping here.
I'm going to leave it for now and go on to the next section and do the same thing.
I don't want to go on.
Okay, I can tell you where it is right now. It's right there. See, you can see that. See, this is maybe even more obvious. See how dense this looks, these two, compared to the ones around them with this, especially the tops and bottoms of them. This looks just like a solid color, basically. That's the S's. So I'm going to just do the same thing I did over here. This is called clip gain, which allows you to just go in and just adjust individual little areas like this. 8 dB cut there, and the same thing here. One thing I've noticed about this particular software, one fault of it, nothing's perfect. I really love this software and I think it's amazing, but one thing I have noticed about it is, like, if I tried, you would think for time's sake, and being that they're like, right here in the same area, I could do both those tracks at once. I could just highlight both of them like that, have them both set on that, that clip gain mode, like this, and just go in, right, and do them both at once, or even more if I had more tracks with the same part, right? But for some reason, this software doesn't like that. That particular edit function. Every time I've tried to do it, it'll only do it to one, or maybe it won't work at all. It won't even allow you to to lower or raise the part. It's one little area of glitch I found. That seems like it'd be so much easier, and I could do both of them at once. But anyway, okay, let's listen to this one now. I don't know if I did a before take, but here's the after.
I'm stopping here. I'm stopping here.
Yeah, again, these, I've said this so many times, but it's really hard to know on these headphones to get a true image of what's happening. But I've done this enough that I noticed that I think if I even hear it a little bit on these phones, it's probably there. So, and if nothing else, I was able to show you how that works, how that's done. If I hadn't showed that before, I'm not sure. I may have. But now here's the other thing I can do here. And that is, I have that, so I can just drag it over. Where is that? Is it there? I think it's right there. Is that the second chorus? No. It's right there. See how I just copied and pasted basically that part over to the second chorus. And then I'll do the same thing again for the third. Which is right. I'll just mark it with a cursor like that. And that's by holding Control. Well, I highlight the section, I left click on it and hold, and then I hold control, and that makes a copy, and I can just copy and paste that over like that. Now I don't want this particular one there, but just a reminder of how that's done. So now I have that chorus and all the 3 chorus places, and I'm thinking I might even want to add, I don't know, 1 or 2 maybe. I realize now that I have this one marked as lead vocal. I might want to add 1 or 2 possibly harmony parts, but I don't know yet. I'm going to change the name of this to chorus vocal 1. Make this chorus vocal 2. And there we have that. We have that part. Let's listen to it again.
I'm stopping here. I don't want to go on. I'm stopping here. I don't want to go on.
Now that's completely dry. I mean, other than the de-esser, we have no effect. We have no delay or reverb on there. The only effect that's happening really is the doubling of the 2 parts. So I don't know. I think I've mentioned before that I often like the sound of a dry vocal, but I don't know. I might add something like, let me look here. Maybe just like a really short delay. I'm going to sync this so it's synced with the tempo of the song. So any changes I make here are going to be in note values. Like right now it's on a whole note. And as you can see, as I move it here, it's changing. There's a quarter note triplet, a quarter note, dotted eighth, half note triplet, dotted half note, whole note, 32nd note, triplet. It goes all the way up to 32nd note triplet. That's probably too fast. Let's try an 8th note. And we'll turn this on. Feedback is the number of repeats, I believe. Pretty sure that's what it is. I should know this, but I'm almost positive that's what it is. Let's solo it and listen to what we got here.
I'm stopping here. I don't want to go on. I'm stopping here. I don't want to go on.
Sounds pretty good. And yeah, this is, let's see, like if I turn this up, that was at about, 10 o'clock there? If we go up to 3, let's see. I bet that's more repeats.
I'm stopping here. I don't want to go on. I'm stopping.
Yeah, that's what that is. And this is the level that the repeats are. In other words, like the volume of the repeats. So let's see if we turn it up just a little bit, maybe up to 12 o'clock.
I'm stopping here. I don't want to go on.
And this is like the tonal quality of what's their definition? The filter type applied to the delay, crossfading between types. And this is like, you got a low pass, which is basically cutting off the highs. You've got a band pass, which is accentuating the mids, or a high pass, which is cutting off the lows. I generally use the low pass, so it has kind of a darker flavor. I mean, you could now listen to this. It should have a brighter. The repeats should have a brighter flavor.
I'm stopping here. I don't want to go on.
You can really hear the number of repeats there. I'm going to come back to where it was. I think like around 10. And also, it's more accentuated, I think. At least it is in these headphones when you have at a brighter quality. Let's just for the heck of it, let's try this mid one.
I'm stopping here. I don't want to go on.
That's not bad. Honestly, I don't know what this one does. Let's see. The cutoff frequency of the filter applied to the delay. The cutoff frequency of the filter. Let's see if we can tell audibly. I'm not sure what that is.
I'm stopping here. I don't want to go on. I'm stopping here.
I see.
I don't want to go on. I'm stopping.
That's literally moving it. If it's, especially if it's in bandpass mode like it is now, it's literally moving that through the frequency range there. So what does it do if it's like in pass mode like that? Oh, it's changing the slope. I see. So let's put it back to its default. Come up to this band pass, which is accentuating. It's centered around 1K.
I'm stopping here. I don't want to go on.
That's kind of interesting. Let's do the same thing here. I'm just going to delete this one that we had on here, and then copy this one down again because it has those exact. It'll have the exact same settings. And let's listen to both of them within the context of the music.
I'm stopping here. I don't want to go on. I'm stopping here. I don't want to go on.
One thing you may or may not notice, I certainly notice it, is that when you hear it in the context of the rest of the music, it sounds a lot less pronounced. You know, that's true of delay often and reverb. It almost seems like it's more pronounced in reverb. Sometimes I'll be working on a part, especially if you have it soloed, and like I've heard guys say, like, you know, like Chris, I think it was Chris Lord-Alge said that, you know, you should always work on things in the context of the rest of the music. And in other words, I guess he's not a big fan of soloing things because you want to hear it how it sounds within. That's how it's going to be heard by the listener. You know, that's the argument I believe he made. It's going to be heard in the context of the rest of the music. Now, I don't always do that for whatever reason. You know, I like I was doing there. Sometimes I like to isolate things just to hear them. I don't know. That's just me. He's rich and famous, and I'm not. So maybe listen to him, not me. But yeah, like I've done things like sometimes like added reverb to a part, be it a guitar part or whatever, a vocal part, and if I have it soloed and I'm doing that, I'll think, wow, that's boy, that's a lot of reverb. I don't know. And then you listen to it in the context of the rest of the music, and you can barely even hear, if at all, the reverb. Like, oh, okay. So you know, you do have to at least have that in mind, and check it. You know, I would say at least check it against you know, what it sounds like with the rest of the mix. And that's true of other things too, you know, like EQ moves. In fact, I think he might have even been talking specifically about EQ moves, Chris Lord-Alge, when he was talking about that, is that you should be making them within the context of the whole song and not just the individual part, you know, like soloed. So anyway, this is what we've ended up with here for now.
I'm stopping here. I don't want to go on. I'm stopping here. I don't want to go on.
And let me see. That's almost an hour I've been rambling here, so maybe I'll stop here for now. I've got the other lyrics written for the main vocal line, and that's probably what I'll do next. But for now, actually, I might think about trying to work out another harmony part for this chorus, and that's another one where I might feel a little gun shy doing that, recording that, because it's a process, you know, and in that process you can hit some bad notes, you know, because you're experimenting, trying to figure out, you know, what works and what doesn't. I don't know that I necessarily want to share that, but maybe I will. Who knows? I'll think about that. But for now, I think I'm going to stop, and I'm going to save before I do. And I thank anybody who took the time to listen, and I hope this was informative and or entertaining. Thank you.